I'm constantly reminded time and time again that it's not only important to focus on your current bank, but it's also important to focus on your future bank. And in this video, I'm going to share exactly what that concept is and how you can implement it for your business. If we haven't met before, my name's Daniel Schulte. I run a marketing agency called Wealthy Clients, where we help tax strategists attract and acquire affluent clients on a regular basis. And with that being said, let's dive right in. So current bank and future bank is a concept that I learned about from my mentor, Dan Kennedy. And basically the way that I like to think about it, or the way that you can think about it, is that current bank is typically like all the things that you're doing and focused on to generate sales today. And then future bank is all the things that you're doing to generate sales in the future. So to give you a quick example, and I think it's actually the same example that he uses in his book, I'll give you a couple different examples, but a restaurant, for example. One of the best things about restaurants are that it's typically where people go to celebrate, right? Whether it's celebrate an anniversary, a birthday, okay? And so while a lot of people go out to celebrate their birthdays, the restaurant doesn't do anything to basically continue that relationship moving forward, right? So you may go into a restaurant and they do absolutely nothing to contact you or collect your contact information and nurture that relationship so that they can have you coming back for your birthday the exact same time next year, because they're only focused on the current bank, present bank. On the flip side, if you are constantly building your database, building your contact list, which we'll get into how to leverage that later, then what you'd be able to do is as you're collecting those, you can set up reminders for their birthday next year. So every customer that comes in, whether it's for their birthday or not, you can now have them come in with their offer or with a offer for their birthday. And typically when people come in for birthdays at restaurants, they're spending more, they're coming in with a group of people. So it makes for a much higher ticket average, and you can have that person come in an extra time that maybe they wouldn't have in the previous year. And so what's nice about this is that you're building future bank, because every person whose name that restaurant collects, you know for a fact that that person has a birthday. Now they can basically create and generate sales in the future by leveraging that customer contact information and having them come in. Now, what does this mean for like you as a tax planner? Okay, well, I've been on a big kick recently about going after the 3 to 5% of people who are in the market right now, both for myself and for my clients. There's a good thing and a bad thing with that, right? The good thing is that 3 to 5% high ROI, but sometimes it comes at the cost of that future bank. The typical model that I recommend is you send somebody straight from an ad over to a video sales letter, which is basically a 10-minute video. If they watch it, typically you'll see anywhere from 5 to 12% of those people go from the video and go through the application and book a call if they're qualified, right? But that means that 95% of the people are clicking away and going and doing something else. So recently, something that I've been doing is, in order to actually get to that video sales letter page, what I've been doing is I've been putting an opt-in in front of that page. Most of my clients, for example, they'll either run some kind of like free training video or just a direct offer like, hey, we'll save you $50,000 in taxes. And what we do is we send them straight to that video. But all we do, or what I would recommend start doing now, is to put an opt-in page in front of that video. And the reason is twofold. A, if you have a team of setters, right, you'll be able to contact those people, get them booked on a call, or if you have a full stack salesperson. But the second reason why that's important is because if that person goes away after opting in, you can still contact them via email and build that relationship. And as you know, tax planning is typically a lot relied upon on the relationship and the trust in that expert. If somebody clicks away from the video without giving you any of their information, for example, because something came up, they got busy, then they may not be able to go back and watch that video right then and there. So by collecting that contact information first, it still gives you an opportunity to follow up with that person, provide value, and stay in contact with them as well. What's interesting, and the reason that I get reminded of this so often often. I send out emails to my list. I have a pretty small list because again, I've been focused on just driving people straight to my video sales letter, but I have like a 300 person list. And so I'll send them my YouTube videos like this, or I'll just send them text-based content, or I'll send call to actions in my emails. Well, I was recently sending out some emails and I had like 3 booked calls from one email, and then I had like 2 responses from another email, both from people that were basically saying like, hey, yeah, I want to work with you. Let me know what the next steps are. I just get reminded because if I had never collected that person's contact information, would they have seen my ads again? Sure. But the nice thing is that I've been able to build that trust. I've been able to demonstrate my expertise. And I mean, email is like $9 a month. Right? And you can basically send like as many emails as you want. So the nice thing is that once you collect that person's information, you're able to continue building the trust with them. I mean, there's been a couple times where I've sold like 10K straight through an email without even like getting on the phone, without a sales call. I mean, I had sales calls with them previously, but I was basically able to sell it like straight through the email, and I just sent them to a checkout page and they paid. So I'm constantly reminded like, hey, sometimes you want to make sure that you're not just going for that immediate sale with like a super direct offer, but it's very, very helpful to put that lead generation right in front of it with an opt-in page. So, there's a time and place for both, but I'm just, again, constantly reminded over and over again. And I'm also reminded of the power of consistency, right? Like an ad today coupled and compounded with an ad tomorrow can have huge lasting effects, both in your current bank and your future bank, because that repetition and that consistency builds that image in the client's mind. And that's why I feel like it's so important to consistently put out value, consistently put out content, because it builds that future bank by putting goodwill into the market before you ever extract anything. Like another example, I had a call with a potential client today who I had actually talked to like 8 months ago. The guy thought he knew what he wanted to do back then, and then ended up like scrapping the whole thing. It's still a version of tax planning. And then he basically sent me a message. He's like, hey, I want you to do some consulting for me. So I was like, okay, it's $750 an hour, $750. So here's the link and we can hop on and create a strategy for you. So he bought an hour of my time, but if I hadn't been showing up in his feed and giving him that value, he wouldn't have decided to reach out and contact me about it. And funny enough, the guy literally like followed me on Instagram, and I think I shot him a text. I was like, hey, thanks for the follow. How's the firm been? And he was like, yeah, I want to buy your consulting. I was like, oh, okay, sounds good. That's basically my spiel for you today. Not only is it important to focus on the current sales that you're getting right now, but how can you in tandem create future bank by creating that relationship, collecting that lead, building that value over time. So I'll leave you with one last tidbit. And if you want someone to watch how they do list building and lead generation, it's a company called Fisher Investments, and they're one of the fastest growing investment companies. And what they do is purely lead generation. So to give you an idea of like a direct offer versus a lead generation, direct offer is like stuff that you see in Valpak, or it would basically be, an investment company saying like, hey, we'll take over all of your retirement. A lead generation is, if you look at all the big advertisers and the pure direct response marketers, it's always typically some type of free information or like free info kit, right? Free training, free PDF. I mean, it could even be a lower barrier, something called a tripwire offer, which is like $4, right? The people who are in the market and ready to go right then and there is always the smallest segment of the market. Now, granted, they do have the shortest sales cycles, right? They're in the market right there and they're looking for it. The problem is that A, the market's super tiny, and by only going after that 3%, you also neglect the other 97%. A lead generation offer, that's typically like a free information or a free training targeting the problem, not just the solution, right? A direct offer typically targets the solution. The lead generation offer typically targets the problem. And the nice thing about that is because people are willing to give over like their email, even their phone number sometimes, right? Not necessarily take the next step to book a call, but they are open to at least requesting information and learning more about opportunities that you can present to them. And so the nice thing is that it builds your future bank because you're collecting all these emails and this contact. But you can also do a hybrid approach right here where after somebody requests that information, you send them straight into your direct offer. Or the second option is that you can basically give them a bunch of value, right? And teach them through that lead generation offer, like a free training, for example. And then at the end of that, then give them the pitch to take that next step. And if you're good, or you work with me, right? We can take the people who are problem aware and bring them down to be solution aware and even product aware, where they then want to book a call with you. So, I've seen it both ways. Like I said, at the end of the day, you can send somebody straight to that video sales letter, but if the platform ever bans you, or let's say that it goes out of business, right, which isn't going to happen anytime soon, but you can even see things like radio, newspapers, right? Newspapers are pretty much out of business, which was once a great place to advertise, right? And so if these platforms ever go down or they ever ban you, you still have this list of customers that you've built up, or prospects, I should say, that you can leverage because you own it. That's my spiel. That's why I'm always reminded time and time again why it's important to not always be closing. That is important if you're going after the direct sales, but it's to always be list building. Always be collecting current sales and building your current bank, and also building that future bank. So if that's something you want help with, there's a ton of resources and videos on this channel that help you do just that. So make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.